And okay.
Okay, I think we're good, huh?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, good. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 7 Steps to Awakening and Out of the Stillness. Before I get started, I have an announcement to make. I think Nikki, who is in the room, was the first one to get this information. Oh, Marisol, that is so sweet. Look at who's loving on Marisol, everybody. So, as of today, I am retiring as teacher. I know that there are lots of teachings out there that were recorded from many years ago, but I was never teaching anyone when those things were recorded. I always was just teaching myself. My original calling, which is you'll find in the front part of NTI where it talks about the scribe story. My original calling, I was asked to listen within and to write what the Holy Spirit gave me to write and to teach what I write. And I was told that is how I would learn. So my reason for being a teacher didn't have anything to do with teaching others. It was my path of awakening. But somewhere around 2015-ish, October of 2015-ish, it could be 16, I get the years mixed up, but somewhere around there. While we were at a fall retreat at the Franciscan Center in Colorado Springs, I received guidance to get ready for the end of the movie. The end of the movie, of course, being the end of Shall We Dance, which is the movie I saw the day my calling came. And I knew that the end of the movie meant that I would be stepping back from my public role. But a part of what I did in order to get ready for the end of the movie was I created the gentle healing curriculum so that I could share as much of what I had gained as possible. And when I started the gentle healing curriculum, what I said, this was probably even on one of the early recordings. I haven't gone back and checked it, but the way I remember it, it would be. What I said was that I was going to temporarily step into the role of teacher. And so really, I didn't step into that role of teaching others until I started the gentle healing curriculum as a part of my preparing to back out. And now we're about a month and a half from my official retirement date. And I am very much, I told Mickey this, I am very much feeling called to step back out of the teacher role now. I had said that I was stepping into it temporarily, and temporarily is over. This doesn't mean that I won't still be coming here and doing this program. It just means that the attitude is going back to what it was before, in that I am here to further my own awakening. What this means for you is that I will no longer be taking questions. In the way that people have been asking me questions as if I was the teacher. So that's that for now. I will see if there's any questions about that, I guess, just see if anybody needs any clarification before we begin. So are there any questions about the announcement I just made? Anybody need any clarification, or do you get it? Yeah, Anne.
So because I'm a rule follower and I want to follow these rules, and I'm all for it, of course. If when you say something and you read the quote and I don't understand, I don't quite get it, and there's a clarification, a question will come up. It's natural for me to, it'd be anyone that was speaking. It would be in conversation. It would be like this kind of thing. If I feel the prompt to ask a question, I want to just some guidance on if it's a clarification kind of thing, as opposed to oh, Regina, therefore, what does it mean I should do? I get that's
Yep.
not the question. That's never been the question. But so I'm just
Right.
asking for a clarification on when a clarification arises to be asked for.
Yeah, for now, I'll tell you what, because I think there may be at least a few people who may have trouble with this transition. And so I think like in the beginning, maybe we have to be a little stricter. Does that make sense? Until people get used to it. So for now, let's say if you have a clarification type of question, type it in the chat. And that will give me the opportunity to look at the questions that are typed in the chat and see if it feels right for me to answer them. Maybe later we'll be able to return to more of a conversational way of doing this once people are used to it. But I'm afraid, Anne, that if I take clarification questions on the one hand, then there may be some guru or teacher questions on the other hand in the beginning, right? So, you know, sometimes the pendulum has to swing in the opposite direction for a while. Any other clarification questions? Okay, well then I'm really excited to step back into the student role. Yeah, stop being the teacher. I'm really, 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 really happy about that. What I have been doing is I have been teaching from step 1. But the last couple of teachings from step 1 talked a little bit about desire, which is really what step 4 is all about. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to skip forward to step 4 and kind of finish this discussion on desire maybe, and then go back to step 1. So I am starting, for those of you who like to read along with me, I am starting with quote 792. And in Out of the Stillness, that's on page 286. If you have 7 Steps to Awakening, there's 2 versions. I don't know if the page numbering is the same or not, but in my old version, it's page 132. Should at least be somewhere around there if it's not exactly the right page. So 792. By the way, you guys feel free to spread the word that I stepped out of the role of teacher, because there's only like a handful of people here that heard that, you know, so if you have the mic sometime and you want to tell people, feel free to spread the word. Of course, I think a couple hundred people usually listen to these recordings, so maybe the word will spread pretty quickly. All right, so quote number 792. Oh boy, this is a long one. Mature aspirants will willingly and without rebelling submit themselves to this magnetic power of the grace of self, I don't know, effulgence. Is that how you say that word? Effulgence, something like that. Others, on the other hand, this is important. Depends on whether I want to be the mature aspirant or the others. This is my choice when I retire, right? I can be the mature aspirant or I can be the others. Which do I want? Others, on the other hand, will become extroverted. That is, will turn their attention outwards, fearing the attraction of this power. Therefore, we should first make ourselves fit by the intense love to know the true self, and by the tremendous detachment of having no desire to attend to any second or third person. I'll read that one more time and then we'll start looking at what's in my journal. Mature aspirants will willingly and without rebelling submit themselves to this magnetic power of the grace of self-effulgence. Others, on the other hand, will become extroverted. That is, will turn their attention outwards, fearing the attraction of this power. Therefore, we should first make ourselves fit by the intense love to know the self, and by the tremendous detachment of having no desire to attend to any second or third person. All right. So this is what I wrote in my journal. I actually have a few entries for 792, but I'm going to look at 792A and 792B. That's what I circled. So 792A. Do I want awakening enough? Something feels off with that question, even though many masters recommend increasing the desire for awakening as a first step. It feels better to ask this: do I want awakening now? Am I willing to submit myself to it now? Or is there something I'd rather do, complete, or have first? So it's probably not a hard jump for you to see why, after reading and contemplating quote 792, why I first wrote, do I want awakening enough? But as I wrote in my journal, that question didn't feel right. And maybe the reason that question didn't feel right is, how would you measure enough, right? And, the ego mind, of course, is probably going to, no matter what, well, maybe not. The ego mind might say, yeah, you want it enough when you don't. Or the ego mind may say, no, you don't want it enough. You'll never be good enough, right? And go down that road. But it seemed like, do I want awakening enough required some kind of a measurement, some kind of a judgment, some kind of a way to know. And it didn't feel right. It felt like that was wrong. So when I went back and looked, what felt appropriate was, do I want awakening now? And that would be now in every moment. Now, that's easy to me. I don't know about y'all, but I can tell if I want awakening now or not. If I don't want awakening now, then I want something else, right? I want people to behave the way I want them to behave, or I want to gain something that I don't have, or there's something else that I'm wanting. But if I want awakening now, my focus is going to be with that, regardless of what it looks like the body is doing. It's interesting because I'm not sure whose quote this is at 792. Oh, Sri Sadhu Om. Yeah, Sri Sadhu Om, who was a devotee of Ramana Maharshi. He ends this quote by saying, we should make ourselves fit by the intense love to know the self. And then he says, and by the tremendous detachment of having no desire to attend to any second or third person. Now that's really interesting because it depends on how you interpret that. It could sound like you're not supposed to have anything to do with anyone else, right? You should just lock yourself in your cave and stay away from people. And if you want to be with people, there's something wrong with you. And what I notice when I look at this life that's just happening is I'm not given a life of locking myself in a cave. It's not the life I've been given. I have a partner, I have a mother. Occasionally, I still have a daughter. Usually I don't, but occasionally she shows up as a daughter wanting something, right? I have a dog, definitely have a dog. The dog takes a lot of time and attention. So what does this mean for me? Literally, genuinely, if I genuinely want to awaken, in my case, to the first principle of God, which is my new spiritual aspiration. I was listening to you guys on Sunday when you were talking about spiritual aspiration. And I asked within my last spiritual aspiration, Anne's not, I don't know if she's there right now, but my last spiritual aspiration was developed when Anne and I, there she is. Ah. You don't have to turn your camera on just because I'm talking to you or about you. My last spiritual aspiration was determined when Anne and I were in Ireland, some years back. And I was teaching the Awakening at Home retreat in Ireland, as a matter of fact. And my new spiritual aspiration at that time came, which was be awake now. And that has been my spiritual aspiration ever since. But on Sunday, when you guys were talking about spiritual aspiration, and I asked within, the guidance came to up the ante to simply the first principle of God. Or if you want to hear the more descriptive term, go for God's vagina. And that has something to do with my journal. In my journal, I talk about, there's one place where I talk about wanting truth like a teenage boy wants a girl. And then it says something in that journal entry, breasts are nice, but go for God's vagina, which means the first principle of God. So y'all know teenage boys want girls pretty badly, right? So it's a pretty strong desire. Yeah. So the first principle of God, I can just say those words, the first principle of God, that is the spiritual aspiration now. So it is like a new target. It's a new focus. Has to do with me dropping back into student, as you can see why. So again, when this says we should make ourselves fit by the intense love to know the self and by the tremendous detachment of having no desire to attend to any second or third person. What does that mean for me with the life I've been given and with the genuine spiritual aspiration of the first principle of God? Does that mean I'm to lock myself in somewhere, leave the family? I get an absolute clear no on that. I mean, I don't even have to go any further. In fact, the end of the movie was going back to the family, if you've seen the movie, Shall We Dance? So if I'm going to be occupied by family, how does this apply to me? And now we're back to the correction of the question, do I want awakening enough? To do I want awakening now? Right? Now. While I'm in this situation with my mom, or in this situation with Ron, or here with the dog, or with Jasmine, or with whatever else this life is bringing. Is there anything in this life, anything that this body appears to be doing that can distract me from wanting awakening? That's a good way of putting it. Can I be distracted? Or do I want awakening now, regardless of what it looks like? It's interesting because if you've read Bernadette Roberts, who did awaken to the first principle of God, she also was sent back out into the world of family. She called it the marketplace. But, she started off as a Carmelite nun. And in fact, she had a lot of time in silence and aloneness as a nun. And that's where she awoke to the second principle of God. But then after awakening to the second principle of God, she left being a nun and went into what she calls the marketplace. And it was through being in the marketplace, still very devout regarding her purpose, that she completed whatever needed to be completed and awoke to the first principle. So the fact that there appears to be a life of being with family and doing whatever family is doing does not mean that intention ever has to be off, right? When I read Bernadette Roberts, and of course, she doesn't tell everything that ever happened, but I don't see a person whose intention was off. I see a person who was fully dedicated to her intention, even while all of this external stuff was going on, right? So that's, to me, what this question, do I want awakening now, means, right? Now, while I'm doing this, like tomorrow, I'm going to the bank with Shauna. When I'm at the bank with Shauna, do I want awakening, or have I forgotten about awakening and I'm focused on whatever we're dealing with at the bank? You know? So to me, that's a really important question. It's an important question to keep me focused in every moment on the one thing that remains to want, which is awakening to the first principle of God, or to the absolute. So again, do I want awakening enough? Something feels off with that question, even though many masters recommend increasing the desire for awakening as a first step. It feels much better to ask this: do I want awakening now? Am I willing to submit myself to it now? Or is there something I'd rather do, complete, or have first? Another thing I did this weekend, I was in St. Louis and I taught the 4 principles of God in St. Louis. We were at a Catholic conference center or retreat center called the Mercy Center. They have this lovely chapel there. And when you enter the chapel, you know, they have this little fountain of holy water there. Well, let me back up just a second. I'm watching the movie The Crown, which actually is quite good. I'm getting lots of guidance through The Crown, believe it or not, lots of guidance through The Crown. But one of the things that happened in The Crown, the last episode of The Crown that I saw before I went to St. Louis, was the coronation, the formal coronation of Queen Elizabeth. And one of the things they did was they anointed her. And they anointed her by touching water to her heart, her head, and her hands, right? Which, if you really look at those 3 pieces, you know, the heart is the desire, the head is the will, and the hands is the doing. So they anointed her as the queen. But when I went to St. Louis and I walked in this chapel and I saw the holy water fountain, I took a moment to discreetly anoint myself as a rededication and as a dedication to this purpose for which my retirement is for. And so, of course, I took the water and I touched my heart. I took the water and I touched my head. And I took the water and put it in my hands. And I think one person saw me and maybe thought I was doing it wrong, because that's not what Catholics do. Right? They do something else with it. But you know why I did what I did, right? So I anointed myself with this one remaining possible purpose. And I also I got there a day before the retreat started, and I got to spend a significant amount of time in my room. There at 1 o'clock, I needed to come out. At 1 o'clock, they wanted to take me to lunch. But that morning, I didn't go out for breakfast. Even the breakfast was served downstairs. I stayed in my room, and I stayed in my room in prayer, meditation, and contemplation. And I also rededicated myself that morning in that room, through prayer. And I guess now, by just sharing this all with you, I'm bringing witnesses to my rededication, right? So 792B is the next entry in my journal regarding 792. Let me read 792 again. Mature aspirants will willingly and without rebelling submit themselves to this magnetic power of the grace of self-effulgence. Others, on the other hand, will become extroverted. See, that's the option, right? That's what you have to look at. I'll tell you a secret. Only Shauna really is involved in this, but I'll go ahead and tell everyone. There's a job that I volunteered for regarding some documents that need to be updated because the people around me want to save money and not pay a lawyer. And I said, well, you know, I'll be retired. I can probably do that. We'll still need a lawyer to look at it, but rather than having the lawyer do it, I can do it, and that will save us some money. This weekend, after rededicating myself, I realized I needed to back out of that as much as possible. And so as Shauna knows, and now Shauna knows why, I've offered to pay the remaining money that the other people don't want to pay. And it's not overly large, but it's not overly small either. And I don't know if Shauna thought, why in the world is Regina offering to pay that much money? But now you know why, Shauna. Because it seemed better to pay the money. And I'll still have, you know, obviously some work to do, but not as much, not near as many hours we'll have to go to it. It felt much better to pay the money than to dedicate the time. It felt like if I was dedicating the time, I was starting to fall for this. Others, on the other hand, will become extroverted piece, you see? So now you know why I'm offering to pay the money for the lawyer, at least the part that others didn't want to commit to, right? That brings me back to my purpose by giving that money. So mature aspirants will willingly and without rebelling submit themselves to this magnetic power of the grace of self-effulgence. Others, on the other hand, will become extroverted. That is, will turn their attention outwards, fearing the attraction of this power. Therefore, we should first make ourselves fit by the intense love to know the self and by the tremendous detachment of having no desire to attend to any second or third person. So that takes me to my journal, number 792B. What does it mean to want awakening now? What does that mean? This is a simple answer, but I'll tell you what, it's clear as day. What does it mean to want awakening now? When I want a snack now, I get up and get one. That's not a problem, right? How many of you guys know what to do when you want a snack? You do something about it, don't you? When I want a snack now, I get up and get one. So it must mean that if I want awakening now, then now I am engaged in an awakening practice. Not later, right? Not an hour a day, right? If I want awakening now, then now I must be engaged in an awakening practice. And it doesn't mention what that practice might be, because that practice might vary depending on the situation. But what it does mean is I'm turned inward, focused on awakening now, even though I look like I'm buying groceries, or I look like I'm redecorating a condo, or I look like I'm taking mom out to lunch. Right? And that again is it's, you know, again, what Bernadette Roberts called the marketplace. And she thought, of course, everybody always thinks their spiritual path is the spiritual path, but she thought the marketplace was a necessary component of awakening from the second principle to the first principle. Now, I will tell you, Michael Langford would say exactly the opposite, right? He would say setting inside and meditating 12 hours a day. So what that says to me is, we have to be very genuine in realizing for ourselves what is right for this one to take that final walk. But it looks like for me, life is going to appear quite normal. And my job is not to be distracted by that appearance, and instead to stay fully focused within, fully focused on the new spiritual aspiration, the first principle of God. And I'm sure you can tell that this could be the last spiritual aspiration, right? And what is there beyond it? So, 793, and this is Muru Ganar, starting with the 7 steps to awakening. Grace, the supreme, is rare and unique. There is nothing that resembles it. To make it the object of one's desire is the most virtuous of desires. As all other desires are quenched through the very desire for it, it will shine in the heart spontaneously. Grace, the supreme, is rare and unique. There is nothing that resembles it. To make it the object of one's desire is the most virtuous of desires. As all other desires are quenched through the very desire for it, it will shine in the heart spontaneously. And so I have circled 793A and 793B. There are others, but let's look at these two. 793A is kind of small. If I want only truth, everything else will take care of itself. This is a promise I choose to trust. You know, it's like, seek ye first the kingdom and all else will be added to you. If I want only truth, everything else will take care of itself. This is a promise I choose to trust. And I don't see anything in this particular quote that brought me to that. I would say that in order to see the desire for the first principle as the only desire, I needed to put other apparent desires to rest, right? Like desire for safety, whatever else would arise. And the way that I put all other desires to rest is by saying, if I focus on this, everything else is going to take care of itself. I don't have to desire it. I don't have to think about it, right? Anything that's needed is going to be provided. So that's why this is here. This is putting all other desires to rest. There's nothing else I need to think about, nothing I need to make sure I have, nothing I need to take care of, right? I don't need to do any of that. That will be managed by itself if I focus on truth. Seek ye first the kingdom, and all else will be added to you. So if I want only truth, everything else will take care of itself. This is a promise I choose to trust. Woo, that's important. You know, if you say, seek ye first the kingdom and all else will be added to you, but you don't choose to trust that, you're probably going to fall into those other desires, right? Wanting other things to be a certain way. So it's really important to commit my trust to this. This is a promise I choose to trust. Amen. So 793B. Yesterday, there was an experience that I don't quite know how to describe. From the perspective of mind, something else took control of the body and silently, gently asked mind to submit, to back away and allow it to happen. As this moved the body and mind did its best to submit and allow, I was able to see mind's primary objections, which I see as obstacles that must be let go. And I remember this day very specifically. It was a brief experience, you know, kind of a mystical experience, maybe 20 minutes, but it was as if, you know, at this time there was still more self-will here than there is now. But what happened during this time is that all self-will was kind of moved aside and something else came in, and literally I had nothing, the self-will had nothing to do with where the legs walked, what the body did. I mean, it was controlled by something else. This is what happened. And it was very temporary. But as this was, it didn't do anything. I mean, it walked outside. I mean, it didn't do anything special. It's just that there was no feeling of me being able to control it, right? But what happened, it was kind of interesting, was because the mind had fear of, if I submit completely to this, and these are the fears that I saw that I'm about to read, right? If I submit completely to this, if I relinquish all self-will and let consciousness move this body without a me here to be in control to at least some degree, right? These are the fears that showed up. So number one, there was concern about how I would be perceived if awakening was allowed, if this moved in fully and mind's perceived control over the body ended. Underneath this concern was a fear that mind knows what is reasonable, and without mind's wise control, absolute foolishness would move this body. So that's the first fear that I saw, that, you know, if consciousness was able to move the body through interdependent co-arising without a person there to discern and judge whether the body should go this way or that way, or do this or do that, that absolute foolishness could happen. Like the mind is the sanity, is the good judgment, right? And if you let go of the sanity or the good judgment, no telling. So, you know, this fear, my guess, is probably in all of our psyches. I'm guessing it's not unique to Regina, even if we haven't seen it yet. I remember one friend of mine once saying she was afraid to surrender to Holy Spirit. And she said, what if Holy Spirit makes me take off all my clothes and run outside naked? I said, I don't think Holy Spirit will do that. But that's what this fear is, kind of, right? I mean, she was really expressing this fear, maybe in kind of a funny way, but she was expressing this fear that if I am not here to decide whether that guidance should be followed or not, you know, if it's just happening, God knows what this body will do. And God knows what other people will think of it because of the stupid, crazy stuff this body might be doing, right? So again, the first fear that I saw was there was concern about how I would be perceived if awakening was allowed, if this moved in fully and mind's perceived control over the body ended. Underneath this concern was a fear that mind knows what is reasonable, and without mind's wise control, absolute foolishness would move this body. Number two, there was a concern that I would not be able to work or do the practical things that I do every day without mind. For example, could I exercise without mind, or would I simply stumble about? And at this particular time, I remember one of the ways that I was working out was I was doing step aerobics, right, on a step. And that thought came, like, if mind's not there, am I just going to trip and fall and break my arm when I'm working out? You know, like, this is one of the fears that showed up during this period of time. So for example, could I exercise without mind, or would I simply stumble about? Could I do my job, or would I be fired for becoming a bumbling fool? Now, let's move on before I say anything else. So I think this is going to say it for me. As I look at these now, I see these two are the same fear. And that's all I wrote. But what I see is that they both are pointing to the fear that mind is wisdom. Without mind, would I be asked, would the body just do stupid stuff? Would I even be able to do practical things like work out if I want to? Would I be able to do my job? Without mind, you see what this is saying? Can you see how mind is saying, I'm the wisdom here. I'm what's needed. You must cling to me or you will not be safe. So that was kind of the benefit of that particular mystical experience, is I got to see these fears very clearly. The fear that I need mind to be okay. Um, 794 is the next thing that I have circled. So let's look at 794. Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, earnestness is the only condition of success. Earnestness is the only condition of success. So 794A, who decides if I will be earnest in active practice of true desire? Does my boss decide? Does my boyfriend decide? Does my spiritual teacher decide for me? No. Only I can decide if I will be earnest moment to moment, or if I will allow myself to be forgetful and distracted. As A Course in Miracles says, the power of decision is my own. And that is ACMI Workbook, Lesson 152. So, obviously what's happening here is that I'm looking at my true desire, but I'm also looking at, you could say, what it appears others want from me. I had this fear that without the mind, what would others think of me? Would I be able to do the practical things, et cetera, et cetera? And so now I'm kind of flipping that around. But what is it that others want from me? What is it that my boss wants, whoever that is? I guess that would have been the board of directors. Maybe specifically Phil. I think he was my supervisor at the time, Phil Frisk. What is it that my boss wants from me? What does my boyfriend want from me? What does even my spiritual teacher, who at this time would have been Michael Langford, what does he want from me? And when I looked at this, what I saw is, respectfully, their thoughts about me are irrelevant. Respectfully. The only thing that matters is that I know what I want, that I hold that in my heart, and that I follow the guidance in my heart that's leading me in that direction. That's what this is saying. Earnestness is the only condition of success. Well, I'm defining earnestness as knowing what I want and only paying attention to that which is guiding me in that direction. And this does mean, or did mean, even to some degree, disregarding Michael Langford. Sometimes what Michael asked me to do, for example, reading certain books, did not feel right for me. It felt like that was a distraction for me. It may have been good for him, but did not feel right for me. And anybody who knew me during those years before, when I was a teacher up until today, you guys heard me say over and over and over again, follow your own inner guidance, did you not? Right? So if you take anything away from my years of being a teacher, keep that one, okay? So that's what I'm doing here. Who decides if I'm going to be earnest? Who decides this? Not my boss, not my boyfriend, not even my spiritual teacher. This is me. This is completely up to me, whether I am going to want the first principle of God, which, by the way, for some reason, the West Peak is a symbol for me. So it's wonderful that I can sit here and look at the West Peak while I'm talking about this. Am I going to want the first principle of God? Am I going to apply myself to that wanting? That's just up to me. It is just me here, right? It's just me here, in spite of, the figures that appear to be around. This is about me. So 794B, again, we're looking at earnestness is the only condition of success. Is the perfection of meditation required to awaken by grace to one's true self? I am told earnestness is the only condition of success. If one judges one's meditation or one's contemplation skills, one is seeing with and strengthening the idea that mind knows. Again, mind is being seen as the sensible and wise one who knows. However, it is mind's job to become less and less now. Do not judge spiritual progress or skill. Let mind not know what meditation or contemplation is supposed to look like. Instead of judging, simply remain earnest, regardless of any imagined spiritual skill or lack thereof. This is something you can do. You can be earnest because your heart calls for only one focus now. So I don't know about you guys, but one obstacle for me, only related to meditation, because I actually have always felt very, please pardon these words. I don't know how else to say it. I've always felt very good at contemplation. I've always felt good at discernment. I've always felt, like I knew how to discern and make the right choices. These things came easy to me. The only thing that has felt like, oh my God, am I doing this right, is meditation. And so when that gets in the mind, oh my God, am I doing this right? What follows are things like, why even try? You can't do this. You guys know that voice? You're not doing it right. It's not going to amount to anything. So again, what this says is the perfection of meditation required to awaken to grace by one's true self. I am told earnestness is the only condition of success. To this day, to this morning's meditation, I still use this contemplation to move me into meditation. When the mind shows up, and I think it does every time, telling me I'm not doing it right, this isn't going to amount to anything, I'm just wasting my time, I respond like, I'm here. That's all that matters. I'm here. I'm doing my best. That's all that matters. If it wasn't for this particular contemplation, this particular seeing, it's possible that I would have quit long ago. But I'm here. That's what matters. I really trust that. I'm here, right? I came. That's what matters. That's the earnestness. I came for the right reasons, right? I didn't come out of guilt or anything like that. I came because I want to awaken to the first principle of God. And what all pointers seem to point to is that meditation is, one of the best spiritual practices to move one in that direction. And so for the right reasons, I came. Perfection? No, I don't think there's any perfection here. But Nisargadatta doesn't say perfection is the only condition of success, does he? I have never seen Nisargadatta or any other teacher, at least the ones that I trust, say that perfection is a condition of success. But earnestness, I'm here again today, and I'm here again today, and I'm here again today. That is the condition of success. And that I can do, right? That I can do. So is the perfection of meditation required to awaken by grace to one's true self? I am told earnestness is the only condition of success. If one judges one's meditation or one's contemplation skills, one is seeing with and strengthening the idea that mind knows. Again, mind is being seen as the sensible and wise one who knows. And mind knows whether I'm doing this meditation right or not. That's what we're saying when we're listening to judgment, right? However, it is mind's job to become less and less now. Do not judge spiritual progress or skill. Let mind not know what meditation or contemplation is supposed to look like. Let mind not know, then it can't judge, right? Let mind not know what meditation or contemplation is supposed to look like. Instead of judging, simply remain earnest. regardless of any imagined spiritual skill set or lack thereof. This is something you can do. You can be earnest because your heart calls for only one focus now, right? I can just keep showing up. I can do that. If Shauna votes in tomorrow night's meeting to let me donate that money instead of all that time. Yeah. Okay, 795. All will happen as you want it, provided you really want it. That's the quote. All will happen as you want it, provided you really want it. Okay, so what I have checked is 795F. 795F. Oh, I love this one. And this is something, Andy's not here. Maybe Andy will listen. This is something that Andy brought up last week towards the end, or 2 weeks ago when I was here, towards the end. It says, because I can trust the world, which many of you think you can't, but let's find out why you can. Because I can trust the world and the mysterious force behind it to answer the call of my desire, I commit to lovingly consolidating all my power to desire behind one true desire now. May the force of the universe assist me in this commitment. May the force be with me, right? Andy brought this up briefly towards the end of the last time we were here together. Something about, I don't remember his exact words, but he said something about, Regina, you teach that desire is what makes the world appear. And that's true. But that's why you can trust the world. See, if your only desire is for truth, then the world appears for you in that way, bringing you to truth. I mean, we're kind of back to seek ye first the kingdom and all else will be added to you. Everything that I need to awaken me to the first principle to God, anything manifest, anything in form that I need to help me awaken to the first principle of God will be provided, because the world is manifest through desire. That's why I can trust it. You see? Now, of course, if I'm desiring all this other stuff, well, then, it's going to give me all that other stuff too. But I am in control of my desire, right? I get to choose my desire. And so if I put all of my energy, all of my passion behind desiring to awaken to the first principle of God, I can trust the universe to assist me. I can trust the world because that's how it operates. That's how it functions, right? It is manifest through desire, through passion. So the question is, where is my passion? So that's, again, Nisargadatta said, all will happen as you want it, provided you really want it, right? All will happen as you want it, provided you really want it. Because I can trust the world and the mysterious force behind it to answer the call of my desire, I commit to lovingly consolidating all my power to desire behind one true desire now. May the force of the universe assist me in this commitment. Short but sweet. And I don't really think, I only see 4 minutes left. And as I turn the page and look at the next one, I don't really think there is time to start it. So I'm just folding the page down. And I guess what I will say is this, anybody, I'm not going to answer any damn questions. I'm not your teacher anymore. But does anybody have anything they want to say? Does anybody have anything that they're inspired to share as a result of this last nearly an hour? Yes, Anne.
Yeah, I feel like, I thank you first, of course, it's a brilliant sharing. But I feel like that last point really underscores the power, the universal, meta universe, intergalactic, whatever you want to call it, the creative power of our spiritual intention, of my spiritual intention, of my true desire. It literally will bring it and bring it and bring it. And I just thank you for letting me have a chance to say that and know that. Teach myself
Yeah.
that.
May the force be with you. George.
I think it's almost eerie that we're so fortunate to be here for these teachings that kind of seem to encompass everything. It's like everything has all been wrapped up in a tidy package just here in this last hour. Maybe I'm imagining it, but that's what I think.
Well, it felt good to me, George. It felt perfect for me. I mean, I don't remember if you were here at the beginning or not, but when I talked about how I, anointed myself, recommitted myself, I'm stepping out of the teacher role back to the student role. It all felt beautiful. It all felt perfect, and it always has been perfect. And I'm sure it will continue to always be perfect, right? So yeah, felt good to me. Anybody else want to share? Yes. I don't know your name. BJ, it says?
It's Barbara. I'm Barbara. I don't know why it comes up like that, but anyway, I just want to, you're making my heart just bloom, because I don't know, every time I talk to you, I get really emotional. I don't know why, but I spent many years of my life teaching, and I found that the greatest part of teaching was the learning. And I love teaching because I was able to be a student, and my students were actually my greatest teachers. And for the last few years, I'm retired, and I've been a student, and it's been the greatest part of my life so far. So when you were talking, it just, everything was bubbling and blooming, and so thank you for just underscoring what I'm feeling right now. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for dotting that I and crossing that T. That teaching is a magnificent way to learn. Yeah, the teacher and the student are one. That comes from A Course in Miracles manual for teachers. All right, y'all, we are done for the day. So thanks for coming and hanging out with me. I appreciate it, and I will see you around. Bye.